This message comes from Avid Reader Press, publisher of A Flower Traveled in My Blood by Haley Cohen Gilliland, the true story of grandmothers in Argentina searching for their kidnapped grandchildren during a military dictatorship. Available in bookstores and online.
Hello, hello. I'm Brittany Luce, and you're listening to It's Been a Minute from NPR, a show about what's going on in culture and why it doesn't happen by accident. A few years ago, songs that were topping the Billboard Hot 100 might have sounded like this. It's about damn time. Or this. I'm a savage. But lately, the songs that are getting the most replays are sounding more like this. Hopeless hallelujah, on this side of heaven's gate. And a little further down on the charts, like this. Are you picking up what I'm putting down? The Hot 100 has been getting a heavy dose of piety and prayer lately.
It's an unusual thing for multiple Christian artists to be on the Billboard Hot 100 at the same time, and that's happened right now.
That's Kelsey Kramer McGinnis.
I am a reporter for Christianity Today, covering music and congregational worship practices, and I'm an adjunct professor at Grandview University.
She even has a name for this unusual amount of faith-flavored music on the charts.
Barstool conversion rock. It's sort of this interesting web of things between masculinity, kind of conservative politics, country.
It's the type of music two guys can share a beer over and reflect on the simple things in life, like the goodness of God.
I mean, you even have, Jelly Roll, Shabuzi, Alex Warren, a whole collection of, I would add, primarily male artists making this kind of faith-flavored music and really making breakthroughs with it.
And it's not just the Hot 100. Over the past years, Spotify streams of Christian contemporary music have grown 60%. The market and appetite for Christian music seems to be swelling. Here's another example.
The winner of American Idol is Jamal Roberts.
A gospel singer is the one who won.
That's Dr. Deborah Smith Pollard,
Professor Emerita from University of Michigan, Dearborn, but I am still on the radio. I'm at one of the iHeart stations here in Detroit, Mix 92.3.
She's a gospel music historian and expert, and she's seen how even gospel artists are getting their piece of the mainstream pie. And she wants us to pay attention to Jamal Roberts' American Idol win.
Because there's no way in the United States that he would have won if thousands and thousands of people who didn't even look like him didn't vote for him. But they did vote for him because of his dynamic style.
Today, Deborah and Kelsey join me to break down the multi-million-dollar machine behind the Christian contemporary music genre, who gets shut out, and why this holy crusade on the charts has the potential to impact your listening habits. Okay, so I need a little bit of context. So to start us off, what exactly is Christian contemporary music, or CCM?
Gosh, that's such a good question. So I tend to talk about it like an industry. So CCM is not a genre so much as it is like a media ecosystem that really became popular in the 1980s and 1990s, at least popular in the way that it is now. So this music mirrors what you'd hear on mainstream radio in terms of style and characteristic, but you wouldn't have the objectionable content. So think, no sex, no drugs, those kinds of things.
Oh, like Amy Grant?
Yes, like Amy Grant.
This is kind of a throwback reference, but I know she started in contemporary Christian music and then crossed over into mainstream pop with songs like Baby Baby.
Amy Grant, Michael W. Smith. I mean, names that people might not know anymore, but those are the big names. Its growth coincided with this kind of moment of cultural panic that brought together a lot of white evangelicals, think moral majority moment, politically speaking. And this industry really rose up because it offered an alternative to MTV, an alternative to hot radio. You had parents that were worried, oh, the teens are listening to this music that has all this objectionable content. Here is this kind of clean Christian version of it.
I see. Okay. And I want to hear from you too on this, Deborah. How do you see contemporary Christian music or CCM kind of fitting into like the broader Christian music landscape?
Certainly when we look at Maverick City and Elevation Worship, when we look at CeCe Winans and Dante Bowe, we see that there are African Americans who sing both gospel and CCM.
Maverick City and Elevation Worship, of course, being two music collectives that make contemporary Christian music.
Yeah, and which is not always applauded by everybody. And yet, when you go to YouTube and look at how many views they've received, they're beyond millions, like tens of millions, because people embrace their songs. Because in both Elevation Worship and in Maverick City, those are cross-cultural groups. They're both black and white, okay?
And to be clear, contemporary gospel music is also a type of CCM, but I really start noticing the differences between CCM and that traditional gospel sound when I hear crossover artists.
People like Tasha Cobbs Leonard.
Break Every Chain, yes.
Break every chain, break every chain, break every chain.
Well, that was a CCM song first.
That's a good point. That is a good point. Tasha Cobbs Leonard brings a gospel sensibility to this CCM song.
And then she brings her voice to it and her ad libs and all of that to it. And I remember in my gospel courses, a student saying, that changed my life. That song changed my life. But she had not heard it until Tasha sang it.
Yeah, I didn't hear it until Tasha sang it. And because I believe it was nominated for a Grammy for gospel in the year that it came out, which is how I learned about it. It's interesting to think about how structurally, like the sound of that song, it just is completely different than the structure of a gospel song. It has more of that, like, everyone can sing this together during worship sound.
And yet she brings her gospel style to the delivery of the song. This is why gospel and CCM are connected, because of the lyrics.
And that it sounds like that same kind of lyrical content or sensibility is also a part of CCM or Christian contemporary music, even if it sounds like they are very markedly different genres. Why? If CCM has been around, right, for some decades, like there have been big names who are making this kind of music. Why is it seeing this surge right now?
Well, there have been multiple surges in CCM, sort of these like crossover moments. There have been multiple of them over the past 3 decades. So Amy Grant would be one. In the early 2000s, if we were having this conversation, we'd be having it about Switchfoot and a couple of like Christian rock bands.
Whoa,
right?
throwback.
Like
Jars of Clay.
Yeah. And you'll remember that like Switchfoot had this moment where, you know, they were on the soundtrack to this Mandy Moore movie, A Walk to Remember.
Oh, yeah, I saw it in theaters. Mm-hmm.
There was this moment in the 2000s where you had Christian bands that were making a lot of inroads in alternative rock music. And those scenes were really closely tied together, but we didn't have streaming yet.
So basically, we haven't really seen this kind of surge in Christian music since the early 2000s.
So this is the first time post-streaming. We've had this moment of breakthrough for Christian music into the mainstream, and we're seeing a lot more data about that than we have been in the past. I would say the other thing that's different about this moment is that this is happening at a time when contemporary worship music specifically is having a moment, not just the pop-styled Christian music. So in the past, it's been Amy Grant succeeding in being a pop star who is Christian, or Switchfoot succeeding in being a rock star that is also Christian. But now it's worship music specifically, which is a very specific kind of CCM, music that is designed and envisioned and marketed as music for use by congregations.
like not for like radio play or like stadium, but like when you go to church on Sunday, this is the music everyone's singing together.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you might sing this music.
I see. So when you used to think of Christian music on the airwaves, you might think of someone like Kirk Franklin. Or Mary Mary. But now the music that's really hitting is this super specific style of worship music that CCM artists are writing specifically for you to sing in church.
Mm-hmm.
And so Brandon Lake, who's this Christian artist who's kind of had this explosion all of a sudden through these collaborations, he is a worship pastor at a church in South Carolina. And that, I think, is unique about this moment.
Where's my choir at?
There is this figure who is seen as almost like treating his audience as a congregation.
A whole generation declaring that Jesus is the only way. He is the truth.
And offering them this kind of very direct spiritual encouragement. And I don't really know what the exact why is, but for some reason, audiences are responding to that kind of message and to this faith-flavored music in an interesting way right now. And he's not the only one.
That's an interesting connection, that there's a surge in Christian music because, as you said, many of these male artists are essentially preaching to fans of their music, that there's a market for that kind of musical and spiritual performance.
Right.
Okay, so we've been talking a lot about categories here like CCM, gospel, worship music. Why should we be paying attention to these categories? Like, why do they matter? Kelsey, we'll start with you on this one.
Well, when we talk about the reasons why CCM and gospel have historically been divided into different categories, and you can trace that history back to similarly the way we trace the division between like country and R&B, right? Into the history of race records, the way that different music has been marketed to different racial groups in the US, really since the beginning of the recording industry. And, you know, country music and CCM are both based in Nashville.
And then you have gospel, which typically comes from the Black church. You know, think soaring vocals, mass choirs, and praise breaks, as opposed to kind of like the more mellow country-tinged sounds of CCM. And now you're seeing Black gospel artists crossing over into the historically white CCM territory, right?
Now, the gospel crossover is an interesting question because I like to watch for what elements of gospel artists like Maverick City Music or Dante Bowe or CeCe Winans are sort of allowed to bring with them into CCM. Because like you mentioned, there are elements of gospel music as practiced in churches that are not brought in, right? Like the improvisation, the praise breaks, the harmonic complexity. If you really listen to a lot of the music, you know, popularized by Maverick City, they bring with them instrumentation, they bring vocal style, they bring a lot of aspects that sound sonically like gospel music, but there are some pieces that they don't bring with them because white churches won't know how to make that music.
Right. The sound is different. The musical lineage is different. And a lot of that is rooted in segregation.
So there is still this element of kind of church segregation, even shaping the ways that this music is made and produced and marketed. And not just marketed to radio audiences, but marketed to churches. That's the CCLI piece of this.
Oh.
Christian Copyright Licensing International tracks the use of music across churches. And there's a reason why so much of the music in there is tracking what's being used in white churches. And there's not as much music that is regularly used by Black churches there. So all of this is shaping the Christian music industry and the sounds of popular Christian music as we watch this all unfold.
Coming up,
Why might this music be resonating? What does it tell us about masculinity and, you know, conservative politics and the search for faith at this moment?
stay with us.
Support for this podcast and the following message come from Made in Cookware. President and co-founder Jake Kalick shares the key ingredients that go into Made in products.
We try to design products that are going to last you an incredibly long time. And to know that we're making this in places that take the raw materials seriously, take the manufacturing processes seriously, that's ultimately what's going to allow us to sleep better at night selling this product to you.
Learn more about Made in Cookware at madeincookware.com. This message comes from Revenued. Revenued offers fast, flexible funding for businesses, up to $250,000 for the highest revenue category, with approvals in as little as one business day. Funds are made available on demand, and the cost of capital is based on a fixed factor rate applied to the amount you draw. There are no application fees, no draw fees, and no maintenance fees. Apply now at getrevenued.com and be ready for whatever comes next.
This message comes from Schwab. Everyone has moments when they could have done better. Same goes for where you invest. Level up and invest smarter with Schwab. Get market insights, education, and human help when you need it.
This message comes from Mint Mobile. If you're tired of spending hundreds on big wireless bills, bogus fees, and free perks, Mint Mobile might be right for you with plans starting from $15 a month. Shop plans today at mintmobile.com/switch. Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month 5GB plan required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details.
So CCLI is basically licensing their music to different churches, which is used way more in white churches than black churches. And the money behind the CCM machine is basically shaping the culture of contemporary Christianity and thus the entire musical ecosystem. Deborah, I'd love to hear from you on this as well. Like, why should we be paying attention to these different genres and different categories?
American Idol, Jamal Roberts, a gospel singer, is the one who won.
That's how long I love you forever.
Yeah, recently. And he's about to go on tour with Brandy and Monica as well. So even people who aren't familiar with his style of gospel, but are fans with R&B, will be exposed to him.
So the TV shows and movies in which we can see gospel music included. Queen Latifah and Dolly Parton did a movie together. And it was all about gospel music, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's Joyful Noise is the name of that one.
That was a good one. That was a good one. I'm glad you bring these like pop culture examples up, Deborah, because I think that speaks to like the size and the depth of the industry and the economy around like just, you know, modern day or current day Christian music more broadly. I know that a big part of that has been mega churches and how mega churches kind of play into all of this. I'm thinking of, you know, churches like Bethel or Hillsong. I've been to a Hillsong service here in New York, and something that was apparent in the space, you know, where this is like a theater space in New York, and it's not your traditional church, and people are dressed casually. And the pastor was wearing leather pants on Mother's Day. Like, it was like so stylized and very contemporary. But it was clear from being in the environment that the music was meant to be a big draw. And so I wonder, like, how do these big mega churches like Hillsong or Bethel play into the economy of this worship music? There's a big economy around this, Kelsey.
Yeah, there is a big economy around this. And I would say that probably for at least 20 years or so now, that megachurch experience has been driving the style and format and intended effect of a lot of CCM, what I would call contemporary worship music. You can find resources, we call it multi-tracks or stems, that are created for churches to basically plug and play, have like, you can buy the padding synth effect that goes underneath this Bethel song.
Oh, so you can like recreate like the studio experience in your church.
100%. So there is a whole industry underneath this music that exists purely to help churches recreate the experience of being at one of these mega churches as closely as they can. Even if I go to a church of 150 people on a Sunday morning. If I don't have 20 musicians on stage, I can buy a couple synth parts. I can buy an electric guitar part. I can buy background vocals. I can buy choir effects. I can purchase lighting. All of these pieces that make it closer to what you'd see when you watch a recording by Bethel.
That's interesting. Wait, so talk to me about the CCM machine, like how the music kind of feeds the growth of these churches, but also how like the huge resources that these churches now have kind of have allowed for this big growth spurt in CCM.
So the interesting thing about CCM and contemporary worship music is that there are a lot of different potential revenue streams. So if we look at a church like Bethel, for example, use Bethel, based in Redding, California. Bethel has Bethel TV, which is its kind of multimedia platform that has a ton of viewers around the world. And it generates revenue for that church. The church has also started its own record label, so it can kind of do a lot of the management of its musicians in-house, which is also lucrative for that as a church. This music also generates revenue through the use in churches. Every time a church uses a song written by Bethel artists, it generates revenue for those artists.
Whoa. I mean, that's basically how things work in the music industry. Mm-hmm. It's like you have to get the right to perform something so that the original artist can profit. That's wild. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah. And Bethel happened to become popular at the moment when streaming was rising and social media was also growing exponentially. And so they've really been able to capitalize on getting eyeballs, not just ears, but eyeballs on what they're doing. So they have YouTube monetization. They have Instagram monetization. And you have this kind of cycle effect where people are discovering this music on Instagram. Maybe they're going to their worship pastor and saying, "Did you hear this new song from Bethel?" So they're requesting the song, then the church uses it. Then maybe someone in the congregation hears it and they say, "I love that song." And they go find it on streaming and they listen to it. And it creates this feedback loop where this music is getting discovered and used over and over again. And the churches that are producing the most of it are really seeing a lot of revenue and a lot of listenership growth.
Wow. I am wondering, Deborah, if gospel is as big and if there's like the same economic opportunity in gospel as there is in CCM. And could that be part of the reason why artists that once only made gospel might want to cross over into CCM, aside from perhaps creative satisfaction?
I've not had that conversation with CC or with Tasha Cobbs Leonard to say that, but I could understand if they would cross over for such a reason. But there's also a reason why someone like Karen Clark Sheard started her own label. I think I had a friend telling me that, it's $100,000, that you owe the label.
To pay
and
back.
It's like it takes so long for you to pay them back. But if you have your own label, then you're not in debt to this organization forever and ever. So is it the same as CCM? I doubt it, because I've never been to a Black church where there have been the lyrics on the screen other than the lyrics for a hymn or the lyrics for a Negro spiritual. Okay, so that's why I would say 90.9% of them are not having to pay CCLI for using that particular music.
I'd love to hear from each of you about why this trend, why this growth is something that even people who don't listen to this music and aren't Christian and aren't a part of this culture should be paying attention to.
Well, so much of the music, at least in gospel music, is also tied to the culture. And there are always different times when a particular genre will hit and explode. Thomas Dorsey was a blues musician who was pushed aside, but then his music was so embraced by the Black church. And the next thing you know, it was like, oh, we got to just sing this gospel music. Edwin Hawkins. I mean, we can go on and on with different artists, Clark sisters, etc.
Kelsey, what about you? Why do you think understanding this sort of CCM boom that we're seeing right now is something that's important for people who are outside of Christianity?
Well, I think there are some Christians who look at that and say, revival is coming. There's a sign of something that's happening. I'm less convinced of that, but I do think it's an interesting question to ask. Why might the messages in this music be resonating with people, especially young people at this moment in time? I think there might be something to that there is a search for music that feels like it's looking beyond themselves, beyond the small kind of internal world and outward. It's worth kind of saying, well, what else is happening around us? A lot of this music is made by men, and a lot of it is a little bit country flavored as well.
Mm-hmm.
And to the extent that those things are all connected, what might be happening there? Why might this music be resonating? What does it tell us about masculinity and, conservative politics and the search for faith at this moment? We have an administration right now that talks very openly about wanting to fight against anti-Christian bias out in the world. And it's hard not to look at that and then look at celebration over Christian music featuring prominently on American Idol. And seeing a certain segment of evangelicals feeling like this is our moment.
Interesting. Well, oh my gosh, I feel like my curiosity has been satiated for now. Oh, so Deborah, Kelsey, thank you both so much.
Thank you.
It was great to be here. Thank you.
And I'm going to put on my influencer hat for a second and ask you to please subscribe to this show on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you're listening. Click follow so you know the latest in culture while it's still hot. This episode of It's Been a Minute was produced by
Corey Antonio Rose.
This episode was edited by
Nina Patak.
Our supervising producer is
Barton Girdwood.
Our executive producer is
Verilyn Williams.
Our VP of programming is
Yolanda Sanguini.
All right, that's all for this episode of It's Been a Minute from NPR. I'm Brittany Luce. Talk soon.
Support for NPR and the following message come from IXL Learning. IXL Learning uses advanced algorithms to give the right help to each kid no matter the age or personality. Get an exclusive 20% off IXL membership when you sign up today at IXL.com/NPR. This message comes from Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile took what's wrong with wireless and made it right. They offer premium wireless plans for less, and all plans include high-speed data, unlimited talk and text, and nationwide coverage. See for yourself at mintmobile.com/switch. Support for NPR and the following message come from Rosetta Stone, the perfect app to achieve your language learning goals no matter how busy your schedule gets. It's designed to maximize study time with immersive 10-minute lessons and audio practice for your commute. Plus, tailor your learning plan for specific objectives like travel. Get Rosetta Stone's lifetime membership for 50% off and unlimited access to 25 language courses. Learn more at rosettastone.com/NPR.